Good evening, my friends. What's happening? I'm making this video because I feel great. And I generally, when I feel good, I don't want to make a video saying, I feel great, because, it serves no real purpose, but when I'm in a good mood and I'm feeling good, I can tell. Beyond just having a good day. There's a couple things I'd like to talk about, and one of them has to do with the bacteria in our bodies and how much they affect our mental well-being. And another has to do with herbs and substances we consume, sugar, things like that, which alter our body chemistry and therefore our thought patterns and brains. And I don't know how I'm going to fit in all these thoughts in my mind because I don't have any notes or anything here, but I wanted to start off by saying, it's as you get older and you try different diets, different methods, I think most people out there have at least at one time in their life tried, say, a new diet, maybe not a diet, but maybe a new herb or supplement or anything. Basically just changing your standard way. Maybe you cut out sugar or started eating raw, whatever it may be. And after a couple days you start to feel good and you say, wow, this is really working. This has happened so many times with various herbs and substances that I've taken, such as like taking Kratom. Just taking Kratom isn't going to make you feel good. It may short term, but Kratom by itself is, it has a purpose, it serves its purpose, but it's not the cure-all for everything. Cannabis, a lot of people seem to think cannabis, has this great effect on their, well-being, but for some people it makes them anxious. And people change as they get older, and you get different effects from different things. So as an herbalist, I'm always trying different things, different herbs, different mushrooms. And I've gone through a variety of different mixes for my smoothie supplement, and every time I start to feel good, I think, is it something I'm taking? Or is it something I'm not taking? And it's very difficult because so many people are just adamant about sharing what they've found. Like, I started taking this and I feel great. And then over time, that fades, and you find, maybe it wasn't that after all. Maybe I was just in a good mood. It's similar to taking antidepressants. When somebody gives you an antidepressant and says, hey, you can take this and you'll start feeling results in about 3 to 4 weeks. And you wonder later, well, would my depression have resolved itself anyway in 3 to 4 weeks? Probably. But it depends on the, severity, of course. There are some people that antidepressants do help, but a majority of people taking them probably don't need to be. We just want to mask our pain. Part of being happy means embracing our pain. We can't hide away from it. And that pain ends up being pleasure. It's part of life. Pain is pleasure in the way that we realize when something's not going our way, it's okay, we'll get through it and we'll move on. Some people get sucked into that mindset of, I'm a victim, everybody's against me, the world's against me, I'm just going to cover my head and hide. And a lot of folks do that because it's easier than actually discussing and figuring out what's wrong with us and mostly making an actual physical change to our diets or our bodies, starting to exercise. I know I could exercise more, but I've always had this kind of the Socratic, I guess the philosophy of Socrates was, why should I go walk around? What's the point in that? Or why would I go running, It's like I'll walk somewhere if I need to. But the idea of exercise was absurd to him, exercising just for exercise. And on that note, some people exercise like runners to get the runner's high. So here you are, exercising for the sake of feeling good, but it's all part of the neurochemistry that makes us who we are. Cutting sugar out is a huge thing, but people forget that the brain runs on sugar. So there's a certain amount of, sugar that is acceptable in foods. What I'm saying is people go extreme. They want to cut everything out or go with some fad diet or some new fad herb or plant or whatever it might be. There's no cure-all. For me, I've been taking lion's mane and a couple other mushrooms and a few other herbs over the last week, rhodiola and ashwagandha as a combination, which seems to be great, but I'm not going to sit here and say I feel good because of those. Now, I can maybe confirm it over several months if I can carry a certain feeling, but in my mind and my heart, I know nothing is forever. There are going to be bad moments. So here's the way I determine whether I'm feeling good. Because you can't tell if you're just having a good day, maybe something bad happens to you when you're feeling great, and then all of a sudden you're in a bad mood. So if you can be instantly triggered by somebody's comment or something to be in a bad mood and then carry it with you all day, then you're not happy. For me, being able to let go of the fight or flight is something we all have, and we've needed it. It's part of our evolutionary trait to flee from danger. Unfortunately, now people have fight or flight, symptoms when they're just worried about going to work or what their boss is going to say, or things that aren't going to physically harm them. And we get trapped in that paradigm, and it wears us down, because when your body's in that mode, it shuts down your digestion, and you go into fight or flight, and your body starts producing cortisol and adrenaline, and you can't think clearly. Put it this way, when you're stressed, your brain doesn't work. When you're angry, your brain doesn't work at all. And this is why a cooling off period is good. But point being that if you're able to have somebody completely lay into you and get angry at you or hurt you or whatever, and it's natural that you're going to feel some anger or frustration. For me, it's how fast does that anger or frustration dissolve? And I don't carry anything for more than a couple minutes now. I never come home thinking, oh God, why did this person do this or that, There may be an instance that happened during the day that, would have put somebody else into some long-term bad mood, and I'm just like, I don't want to be that way. So, part of who we are is the things we choose to consume. The way we choose to view the world is the most important part. It's the mental alchemy, transmutation of ideas. That when something shitty happens, you say, hey, I'm going to turn this into something good, and I'm going to make this work for me. That's crucial. And it may seem like positive thinking is overrated. It's not. It's not at all. It's not about just being positive about everything. I mean, I even try to find good in some of the most horrendous things that humans do, or the worst things about life itself. Here, we're put on this planet, we develop our consciousness, and then we realize, oh wait, I'm a mortal being, and I'm going to die one day. And then you suffer physical pain, and you have mental anguish in your life, but that's all part of the living. This is why covering up our emotions with drugs, like taking anxiolytics or antidepressants, taking Valium for anxiety, these may have a short-term result of making us feel good, but in the long term, it's not really feeling good, it's feeling nothing. For me, I want to be able to embrace my emotions. Like I heard, like my wife turned on Jack Straw, which is a song from the Grateful Dead, and I guess they were on Colbert the other night, and she just turned it on YouTube, and it was like just so sweet. It was the sweetest, most delicious copy that I had heard of that song with the Dead in recent years. And instantly I had tears welling up in my eyes, and I thought, this is great, It brought me back to a time when I was young, and I was sitting on the city bus, and I was traveling to school with my headphones on, and that same song came on, and I remember crying on the bus thinking about Jerry, and how Jerry Garcia had died recently, and all the great times I had. And so being able to conjure those emotions and to feel, it's very important, at least in my opinion. I see so many fucking zombies out there walking around that you can just tell. I mean, some people are doped up all the time, and it's got to be a horrible way to live, because in the long run you have to come back to yourself. You can't, you may be able to cover up the anger and frustration, but you're also going to cover up the happiness and elation, and then we'll start to accept less as what it should be. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the microbiome of the body, which may not seem much tied into this, but it is hugely important. Do microbes determine how we feel? For those who aren't aware of toxoplasma, it's a virus that, let's say, it's the one where you get from cat feces. Now this Toxoplasma gondii, when a cat takes a shit, it's in the feces, and it gets into the rat. The whole idea is for this disease to get into rats, and when it gets into a rat's brain, it lessens and removes their fear response to cats. So they will go out and they will roam and actually find. It changes their brain to have a sexual attraction to the smell of cat urine. That is freaking fascinating to me. The thought is that it does the same. Well, this is obvious, so the rat will come out in the open and get eaten by the cat, therefore completing the life cycle. Well, there's other ones like cordyceps. Cordyceps, which grows on caterpillars. There's a Cordyceps militaris and a variety of others, which one species of cordyceps is a spore that lands on an ant. This spore explodes. It has so much pressure behind it, and then it explodes and penetrates the exoskeleton, the chitin exoskeleton of the ant, thereby allowing it into the body. Once it enters the body, it goes straight to the ant's brain. It tells the ant to climb down from the canopy in the jungle, to go down the hill, to climb up the branch of a small bush, to come out to the edge of a leaf at about 15 centimeters above the ground, and then he grabs on as tight as he can, and then he dies. All of this is programmed into the ant's mind. And we don't know how it works, but it's obvious that that there's a certain consciousness going on there with that fungus. So what it comes down to is our bodies are a majority. We have, 10 pounds or more of microbes in our body, and many more microbes than our own cells. We've probably heard that, but there's up to 10 times more microbes than our own cells. If you include viruses as well, of course, there's all kinds of foreign things in our body that are part of our body. We've spent so long being told bacteria is bad. Oh, and I don't use antibacterial soap. I never will. I'm not worried about dirty hands when I eat or any of that stuff, and I don't get sick. Your body needs to be trained, and today we're growing up and putting these kids and these babies into these protected environments where they're not able to develop their own, resistance to these things. But anyhow, we've got this aspect of various bacteria in our body. In the gut, our microbiome makes, this is how we digest food. Without microbes, we wouldn't exist. We could not exist. It's a symbiotic relationship, just like with lichen, which is a fungus and an algae. They work together. Nature has many systems that work together, just like animals, insects, and people. And when you eat something, your stomach gets the first sign that you've eaten something. The microbes within your stomach and in your gut recognize that. They produce over 90% of the serotonin and dopamine in the body. 90% is produced in the gut. Perhaps more, I'm not sure the exact number, but a majority of it. And this leads me to, the conclusion that something doesn't necessarily have to cross the blood-brain barrier. It can hit these microbes down there, and they can send a signal through the stomach, through the vagus nerve, which travels up the spine to the brain and interconnects the two, and tell the brain to release its own chemicals or compounds. It's really strange how the body and the mind work alone, and when we add bacteria and viruses and how they help us function, it's a whole different world. But feeding the right bacteria is one of those things that we're still learning. I mean, you may have heard of fecal transplants. They're successful over 90% of the time. And people, when they have an illness and they can't produce their own bacteria, they will literally do a poop transplant. Yeah, a poop enema to somebody else's butt. It sounds gross as heck, but if you're dying and this thing will bring you back, allow your body to develop its own microbiome again, that's great. But it also tells us that our bodies aren't just our bodies, that that no matter, just because of the food we eat, that doesn't necessarily make us who we are. It's what nurturing this, this intestinal flora, which helps us function. But also, all throughout our body, processes cannot happen without that. So it's something to consider when we're looking at something that may make us feel healthier or happier. Like if we're doing a lot better, what are we doing differently? And how long can we carry that on? There's a difference between feeling clear-headed and just, there's a brightness that comes with being in the zone, in your mind, functioning at a higher level, as opposed to just being zombified. And I've been zombified. There have been times where I'm just not feeling up to it, especially when I had sciatica, and I was, try to take more kratom to ease the pain, or try to, maybe I can't eat because my pain's so bad, and I get my whole body out of whack, and I'm just not at my full potential. I still feel good. I think I feel good. I think I feel normal. And then I experience my true self again, like, oh, that's right, I can feel so much better. And it comes and goes. So I guess the message I'm trying to convey is to observe what you eat, what you do, your body and your mind. And besides our diets, our mental diet is more important almost than our physical diet, than our actual food, because we need to tell our brains how we want them to operate. and remember that these things are set up on a primal circuit which has allowed us to survive for millions of years. Only in the last couple hundred years have we had this industrial revolution and actually have time to chill now. In the past, people didn't have a whole lot of time to just sit around. They were always doing something. In a lot of, like, if you worked on a farm, I guess I can't know for sure how much more free time we have today. Maybe it's worse today. I don't know. Maybe we have less free time. But there's a lot more to think about. And there's a lot more things that can bring us down. And there's also a lot more things that can bring us up. And I think it's all about keeping a positive mindset, and not letting other people's bullshit affect you. Because you'll find that if you're a happy person and you try to put in positive comments, there's always somebody who wants to bring it down and say, oh, yeah, that's a pretty flower, but it's probably poisonous. Or, the one I've heard from people specifically, I was like, it's a beautiful day out there. Yeah, but it's supposed to cloud up later and rain. What the hell, These are trained behaviors that we have. Always looking to the worst, always trying to figure out what's wrong. Stop trying to look at what's wrong. Stop. It's like a defeatist, attitude. Embrace what you have now and enjoy it. Living in the now doesn't mean you just embrace now and nothing else matters. It just means taking what you have when you have it. And all of us want to be in our most coherent state so we can know we're making the right decisions. We don't want to look back on our life and say, oh, I was a shitty worker, or I was a shitty parent, or I was a shitty friend to someone because I was in my own zone. Nor do we want to be like, oh, everybody else was shitty and I got taken advantage of. Because that's another thing, Being too kind. You have to stand your ground. You have to be able, and that's one of the things that brings people down, is not standing their ground. They let people tread on them. They let people talk to them in negative ways. And, I for one don't put up with bullshit. I am so patient with people. But it takes a lot to get me to just say, fuck off, I don't want to deal with you. But really it's just simple things like if someone's persistently threatening me or harassing me or, obviously trying to get attention or troll, whether it's in real life or online, I just walk away from it because my energy is too precious to waste on idiots and those who are trying to bring me down to their level. And, we're all just doing the best we can. We all want to think we've got things figured out, but there's always something else to learn about ourselves and our bodies. So the idea of microbes controlling our minds, I guess that's why I brought that up, to ask how much are we really thinking our own thoughts? Because now I never finished the toxoplasma thing, but when toxoplasma gets into the human body, it can go to the human mind. Now, people who have been in car accidents for driving too fast, they did I can't remember the exact study, but you can take a blood sample to test for toxoplasma. Men tend to be much more reckless when they have high levels of it in their bloodstream. Basically, when this virus gets in, it attaches to the brain and it never goes away. And in some people, it lays dormant and doesn't do much. We're not sure exactly how much it really affects us. For others, it makes them actually take chances they wouldn't take. So just like the rat takes chances by going out in front of the cat, it makes people take chances. They drive too fast, they get too high, they take risks that they wouldn't. Some people have gone to the doctor, like my mom mentioned, watching a show about it the other day, and some guy said he went to the doctor because he was never scared. He said there was some big event that happened and the whole room cleared out and he had no fear. And he was like, well, he has no fear response. And he had very elevated levels of toxoplasma. Well, it's not just that, just a virus. It's bacteria that can communicate with one another that tell us whether to be happy or sad. Could the feeling in the gut be the bacteria telling us? And what exactly is that gut-wrenching feeling? What is that physical pain? That's your stomach mind, because all of our organs have cells within them. They're all aware in their own universe, if you will, as above, so below. And it's fractal nature, back down through our organs and through their little, sections within the organs and the cells and then the DNA and everything's just a big-ass tuning fork picking up signals and trying to understand each other. And so sometimes when we start a new habit or a new diet, it takes a while to take effect. So all we can do is keep trying and see what works for us. But ultimately, I think all of us want the same thing. We just want to live a fulfilled, happy life, not to harm anyone else and not to be harmed by anyone else. Unfortunately, we can control not harming others, as much as we can. Sometimes bad advice can be harmful, which is why I don't give advice. I try not to, but also it can be helpful. So there, so many facets to being human, and there are so many people out there who really think they have it figured out. So many of these gurus who will tell you this is what everyone needs to be happy. All you have to do is meditate. All you have to do is stop eating sugar. All you have to do is eat more cabbage or take this drug or, it's fucking absurdity, pardon my language, but nobody has a be-all, end-all fix for everyone. And what works for one person may not work for another. And there are still fixes that are not discovered yet, It could be simple as eating 2 dandelions a day, puts your stomach bacteria at a level where, it wants to be. Who knows? We're all part of the discovery, and that's why I urge all of you to partake in the discovery. And don't belittle your own mind and your own thoughts and your ideas. Keep a journal and write your thoughts down, So I was watching Joe Rogan the other day, and he was interviewing somebody and they were talking about that. He said he saw somebody break out a journal, and he started writing notes, and they said, who the hell carries a journal? It's like a dinosaur. I was like, well, I have 3 journals, I like to write notes, physical notes of your thoughts. So if you have an idea, write it down when you're feeling it. Go back to it, reread it, because that idea may have a second half that comes 5 years later, and bam, everything works out. I'm still seeking my own path in life. I'm still seeking my own truth. I want to make an impact on the world, but I don't know how or what to do. I'm not forcing it or pretending I'm something I'm not. I'm just a dude who makes YouTube videos right now. But I'm hoping to expand and make a podcast, because I really like that. The format of just being able to sit and chat and talk about life and maybe take calls, and it'd be something great. But I don't have the mental, the know-how and the focus to go and make this happen, because I have a lot of great ideas, but I can't always follow through on them, because I'm working on motivation. And fear of failure is not, that's not an option, because you're much better off failing than not trying. So this has become a ramble, but I hope I've conveyed some messages and been to the point for the most part. And I wish you all luck on your journeys, and to remember to look positive, look at things for what they are. Don't deny life, but don't accept all the bullshit. Just, make it work for you. Find your niche. So, peace and love. You guys are all awesome, and I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful day.